We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Hush now, city kids, gather round for other mints. Hush now, city kids. When it came to me after so long, I didn't have no choices in the streets where I was from. When I think about the pain, I didn't have no choices, I took what I had sworn. Hush now, city kids, gather round for rubbing mitts. Hush now, city kids. But you know, the wouldn't let you have it any other way.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Ray. That is the fans forum. We are jam-packed tonight. We've even got two in the green room who I'll have to bring in, Ian and Pablo, both there. Waiting for some to have their say, and then we'll be bringing them on as well. But good to have a packed house. Plenty to talk about. We're going to have two topics. First off, we're going to talk about the one that we've missed out on. Have we missed out on them? And the second half, we'll talk about the one we may say got away, depending on how well he does away from the club. Of course, that's Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Yankuba Minteh. So let's talk about DCL first. Barry, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Newcastle. It's not the first time they've been linked with this particular striker. I mentioned on the professionals yesterday that his appearance list was a lot better last year than it had been in previous seasons, including subs appearances and starts last year in all competitions. He featured in 38 games for Everton. Everton, of course, not a great season, but managed to stay up. Not many goals, though, it has to be said, over the course of the last few years. And I think that Everton demanding in excess of £35 million for that kind of service up front, I think was far-fetched. And I'm glad Newcastle swerved it. I've got to be perfectly honest. If they've pulled out for whatever reason, I am pleased to see that. I doubt I'm going to get anybody on this panel saying otherwise, but you never know. We do have Darren and Alan on here. Barry, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm over the moon. If it's fell through, I mean, if Everton is seriously thinking this guy's worth 35 to 40 million, they're kidding themselves. He's got a year to go on his contract. Yes, if he's 100% fit all the time, he's a reasonable player. Is he better than Wilson? No. Is he injured as much as Wilson? Probably more so. We were chatting before, and I was saying to Magnus that I'd rather see this young Icelandic kid come in. I would, if this is the way clubs are going to be with us, and they're going to ask astronomical prices, Steve, for the mediocre players in the Premier League, which I think a lot of the ones we're getting linked with are. They're not the greatest players in the world, and it's a huge price. I'd rather keep Wilson. I'd rather get a young'un in, keep Wilson as a reserve. Like I say, the Icelandic kid looks good. If we're talking about 10 million for him, 15 million for him, it's a snip. I'd rather keep Minteh and just move on. I mean, I honestly feel like a lot of the big names that we're looking at, we're getting knocked back on. We obviously got knocked back on the keeper. We couldn't afford Mama, if the stories are to be believed. So we're looking at our second and third choice goalkeepers in Ramsdale and bloody Trafford. And now obviously we're looking at our second and third choice of other positions as well. It's it's getting a bit frustrating that obviously we're trying to improve what we've got. And personally, I don't feel like the players we're looking at bringing in are actually improving the squad state. So no, honest answer from me would be I wouldn't bring them in, not for that sort of money.
You see, we're getting knocked back from players, but you know as well as me. I mean, you're doing the list. What's the list up to now, numbers wise?
It's 132. It's
exactly.
just
Newcastle aren't chasing 132 players, Barry. A lot of this is still paper talk, and I agree with what Mitch and Stu said yesterday. I think word is already out that Manchester City's case probably hasn't been successful, and I think that's why we're going to start to see maybe things start moving in the transfer window, and that's why the press decided to up the ante with the coverage of stories that they wanted to get out there and get clickbait. But I get your point, Barry. I get your point. I'm going to take you out, bring Lee in, and come back to you for the second half. Darren, your thoughts on DCL?
I'll be devastated if we get him. He's most overrated striker, injury prone, not a natural striker. When I heard it on Thursday, I was like, oh no, it's a step back for me. He's another Andy Carroll, injury prone. He's not at overrated forward. He's not worth £35 million. Hell no, not his last year of his contract. So I'm happy Newcastle's pulled out. We've got to keep looking for somebody else, But I like say a lot of people on the Vine were like cringing. Really, we're going for him. So definitely not him.
Okay, straight talking from Darren. Kev, what about you, mate? Are you a fan of Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Would it have been an improvement? I think my point yesterday was as well. I don't think we'll see Newcastle take a chance on letting Wilson go until they at least got a replacement.
Agreed, but I mentioned his name when we had the injury crisis of Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson over, I think it was a January window, if I believe, and I think he would have been a good option at that point in time because I think he might have got a bit of value from then. But obviously now, been working all morning, haven't seen any threads, any whatever, so I'm catching up as much as anybody. So I think we probably dodged a bullet essentially in that sense. Paying 37 million, 40 million, whatever it is. I think there's better out there. Even though, yes, I think he's a good player when he's fully fit. Absolutely. I think he's a Callum Wilson-esque / an Isak mix in terms of his pace, his ability in the air, whatever, all the technical attributes that he has. However, the concern is the injury record. We've already got one and a half with Isak and Callum Wilson already, so we don't need a third pile on to the injury list. And what's his output going to be like? Was it 6 or 7 goals last year or something like whatever it was? So that's not a great return for the amount of games that he played, regardless if he come off the bench or not. If he's prolific, he should be scoring in at least half of those games. So yeah, there's better out there. I've been sitting watching most of the Euros, and there's some, I can't remember half of the names, some Georgian lads, some Albanians who are decent. Yes, might be small. Yes, might be not the typical centre forward, but they've got something about them. They've got a bit of grit. They've got a bit of determination. Don't know anything about the Icelandic lads, so Magnus, he can fill us in on that one. But similar types of players who actually have a desire and want versus probably a big payday or from Calvert-Lewin's perspective of a big move. He's 27, right? So this could be one of his last big moves that he wants, to get a big payday and get something out of Newcastle United, not for the actual want of playing for Newcastle United. It's actually the want of a big, massive paycheck. So again, like we said, we'll just move on. Granted, if it's second choice, third choice, whoever it is, there's better out there that Newcastle United can attract. If it's not him, well, again, okay, we'll go find somebody who wants to play for us and who's not going to pull our pants down in the process.
Okay. What's your views, Magnus, on Dominic Calvert-Lewin and the links to potentially signing him have now faded away?
Like, I'm going to talk a little bit carefully because if he does end up...
Technical issue there. Sorry, Magnus. Go on.
Am I back? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, back. Sorry.
Yeah. He does end up signing for the club, I'll be right behind, and I'm sure there's a reason for the leagues thinking we could do something similar to what we've done with Anthony Gordon, or like how can we improve the player. However, I am much more excited about the other links that happened this week. There are a couple of lads that we've spoken about in the past. Jón Dagur Þorsteinsson being the newest link to the club. I think this is an exciting potential. He's really been doing a good job in Belgium, and he actually comes from a local club where my sons are practicing right this moment. And so they're he's right from my doorstep. And I'm thinking there is a workhorse there that can play on his favorite position is the left flank. But he can play both as a striker, as a right winger. He can play down the left midfield, and then he can also play in the halves. Now, this is a guy that is only valued at around 3 million, and I think we can sign him for 10 million. So I say, for my opinion, forget about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I rate the guy and I respect him. I just don't think this is a good fit for us right now. There's also been, we are losing out on another lad that is from actually playing club football in Genoa. It looks like he's going to Tottenham Hotspur, which is not really fantastic news to me. But I'm very excited about Jón Dagur Þorsteinsson. He scored the winning goal against England on Wembley. He's already first-team regular in the Icelandic national team, and he's 25, so he's not just a kid. I think he would be a perfect addition to the two strikers that we already have. With all his versatility, Jón Dagur Þorsteinsson is, for me, and should be, our main target at the minute.
Okay, good points, Magnus. George, we'll come to you next, mate. Hello, George.
Hi, Steve. A waste of space is my view, I'm afraid. He's not had a full season wherever he's been. And certainly he hasn't set the world alight at Everton in any global sense. He's 2 good games and 3 bad games and 3 games off. I mean, that's what you're buying. And for that sort of money, no, thank you. No, thank you. We're better off taking a chance on the guy that we're selling, Mindy, a young bloke that's starting rather than one that's on his way out. At 27, he's at the state of his career. He hasn't got many years left at the highest level. So it's a non-starter for me. I was horrified to see we even linked with him, to be honest. And he just flatters to deceive. When he has a good game, he has about 3 bad games. Hopeless. We've got a better striker in Wilson if we can keep him fit. Why buy another one that we've got to keep fit? That's just absolute nonsense. So I'm delighted that we've missed out on, if we have missed out on, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I'm not entirely sure that it's as far advanced as the press would have we believe, but that's the press at the moment because it's Newcastle United. But to spend even 30 million, never mind 40 million, on somebody like that would be, in my view, a waste of money. So I'm not going to dwell on him because he's, I just don't want him here anywhere near Newcastle United. He's got nothing that makes me brand new, just starting with his talent that we could develop. Yes, but 27 on his way out. Nah, he's looking for a big payday. And that's that. Let him get it somewhere else, not at Newcastle United.
Okay, Martin. I don't think we're going to get much out of the panel. Then we've swerved one. Are you going to give us a different version of events? Or are you happy to see this one collapse like a pack of cards?
Yeah, I think from a point he gives us different dynamic and a different style of play. If you look at the game against Liverpool last season, Everton played. He caused the Liverpool back four a whole heap of problems. However, just kind of looking very quickly there while people were chatting. So Calvert-Lewin over the last 7 seasons has scored 54 goals in 7 seasons. So an average of 7 a season. That's just purely Premier League. Wilson has scored an average of 11 a season over 4 seasons, including his injuries. So Wilson is better by an average of nearly 4.5 goals a season more than Calvert-Lewin will be. So for me, you're better to keep a hold of Wilson. Even with his injury record, you'll get more goals than you will from Calvert-Lewin. So for me, it's a dead straight answer. Absolutely not. Keep Wilson and look for something else, maybe even later in the year, or look for something as the lads have said. George said, a younger option somewhere across the European leagues. But for me, for a return of less than 7 a season for a 27-year-old with an injury like that, then no, not for me, mate. Stick with what we got.
Okay, a couple of people in the chat. Jackie Nicholson says Alan Thompson thinks he's world class. He kept Everton up last season. He's better than Shearer. And Darren, this is Darren. £5 bet. Alan says that he's world class. DCL. Alan, I think people are still a little bit sore after what you said last week.
Well, he's world class on the catwalk, Steve. That's for sure, and nothing else. My blood pressure went up to 250 over 80 when I heard the news that we're going to sign him. I'm like everybody else in the chat, I'm afraid, not for me. The only other reason he would stay is if Wilson stayed and we had 3 strikers, then I could understand them, like alternating. But seeing we're under PSR rules and Wilson's likely to go, I agree with Madness. I'd rather take a chance on a young lad out and mould. And have DSL. I was horrified, really, to be honest, when I think that when talks with him to be signing him. I was trying to convince myself all last night and the other day that it would be a good sign if he scored, like Kevin and the lads and Martin said, over 5 years. We had him for 5 years that he would score 10 goals a season. Then he's injury prone. He would come up with the age being 27, but not for me, lads. I'll let Alwa Reid go on, but non-starter for me, and I'm pleased it's fallen through. Really am delighted.
Yeah, okay. The Evening Chronicle, Al-Walid says that the Dominic Calvert-Lewin deal is not going to go ahead now. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's really convenient. For me, I adopt the whole thing, really. Always Calvert-Lewin have connected with him past few years. I didn't believe it, but when it starts including Jacoba Minite, some kind of exchange, and they're talking about financial. It got really interesting when I saw the agent company for Calvert-Lewin is the same agent of company agent of recent players join Newcastle. So it gets interested for me. But I think the main thing is Wilson. Is he leaving? Is Calvert-Lewin being mentioned as an idea if Wilson leave? Because it's always Newcastle and Eddie House. When we remember the plans after the takeover, they go for a main striker and a second striker who will be like expert like Wilson, and the third one a young striker. If you remember, we tried to get that French player. I forget his name. So for me, I think this is just it will not get any more realistic until I believe end of the Euros. I think this is just an ideas, and maybe the journalists, when they get some hint or some information here and here, they just because if you see a lot of things doesn't make sense with this deal, and not mentioned to the large number of 37 or 40 million. This is can't. And I believe this is over from the beginning.
Well said, Al Reid. Well said.
Okay, Spenny, What's your thoughts on Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Would you like to have seen him in black and white? Albert makes the point that, maybe you could have had, it was more than Albert. A couple of the lads have said it, that you could have brought him in as part of 3 strikers. But, to let him go, to let him come to St James's and let Wilson go, it's not really improving the squad. A lot of people seem to think. What's your view?
Well, for advice to everybody who's watching and who's on the panel, it's silly season. Newcastle might not even bidded for the player, as far as we're concerned. When that yellow thing says deal has been accepted or bid has been accepted, that's when it's happening. We're talking about something which might not even happen. Simple as that. I got told in May about DCL. Steve Nixon wants him in. I told you, Steve, I think. That's one of his on his list. That's who wants him in, Steve Nixon, in the club. At the end of the day, as far as we're concerned, this player might not even been bidded on. Isaac was done in 2 years. That came out the water. Tonali was done in 4 years. No one knew about that. Bruno was done in 3 years. It's all a load of crap. Simple as that. It's just for journalists because it's the summer. We might not even been bidded for the player. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, Spanny, very forthright. Pablo, welcome back, son. You've been like Reg Varney. You've been on the buses, but you're back. What's your feeling on coming on young Dominic Calvert-Lewin potentially coming to Newcastle? It looks like it's off now. If it ever was on,
I'm absolutely gutted, mate. I think he's amazing.
What?
No, never. No, I'm joking. I think Alan hit the nail on the head when when I saw him wearing a skirt probably about 5 years ago. I thought, you will never come to my football club. However, no, he's one of them players like, I don't know, pick a player like Michael Ricketts from back in the day, promised everything but has never delivered. For me, even my old man texted me saying, "Oh, your favourite player's signing for Newcastle," because I disliked him before we were even mentioned. I think he's got the physique to be a really handy player. He's always injured. He's not prolific. He's not better than what we've got. The only way I could have seen us having him, and that would be at a lot cheaper rate, 10 or 15 mil, was if we'd managed to get into Europe. He would have given us another option, and he'd have been English on the list. But no, as soon as I heard the news, I'm not going to lie, I was gutted. But then obviously now it's all hopefully fallen through. But like Spenny said, we're going to be linked with these every week. Every 10 bob player that any other club wants to get rid of and push sideways, we're going to be linked with. But yeah, I'm absolutely over the moon that he's not coming, mate.
Lee, do you think? I mean, what Barry was saying earlier on. Do you think Newcastle are missing out on the first choice and having to go for second choice, or do you think Spenny's nearer the mark with what he's saying, and in the sense that it is silly season, and we don't actually know who Newcastle are bidding for, and until you see direct quotes or people actually pulling the strip on and being announced, that we're best just ignoring it. We'll have this conversation every transfer window, but again, we seem to be getting sucked into it,
I think probably more down the lines of what Spenny said. We're going to be linked with every Tom, Dick and Harry. And don't forget as well, the Euros are on. Things like Euros and World Cups always prop up players from smaller nations, and we'll be linked to 10 or 15 players in the Euros, I've no doubt, by the end of the week or next week. That's usually the scenario, isn't it?
It is. Ian, good evening, mate.
Hello, mate. Good evening.
What's your thoughts then, mate, on Dominic Calvert-Lewin? It seems fairly unanimous. Nobody's too upset if he doesn't come to Newcastle. But could he have improved the squad if he'd come along, if he'd been part of a three-man strike force, and having a bit of an option up front, or is he just, is he too injury prone? Is he too old? What's your view?
He might have improved the squad of physios, because we'd have had to get another couple in for him as well. You know what I mean? Like, literally, I'm with Spenny, actually. To be fair, I've said for ages on different forums, platforms, Facebook, whatever, I just couldn't see it happening. Yeah. I'm not saying that the journalists who are putting information out haven't been given that information, but we all know the smoke screens sent out left, right, and centre, and some of them will take one to then get one. Like Craig Oates took a couple up the hoop, and then he's come out with a couple of belters recently where everyone's giving him the bigger than that. Well, I think that there was no real. I don't think there was any truth in it. And then you get like a quotes coming from Minter's agent that his choice is Everton and this, that, and the other, and I think it's just a lot of it. 90% of it's rubbish. Let's put it that way. So I don't have to swear, but it's I wouldn't have wanted him if he'd have come in, but I never thought he was coming in.
Okay, there's everyone's view. We've had quite a few comments in the chat. Keep them coming in. We'll have a quick ad break. We'll be back after this.
A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. You can find their website at skipsandbins.com. Contact us, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners in 2024. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts. You can find them at www.media-arts.co.uk. And don't forget, we are a podcast. You can find us on iTunes or Spotify or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel grow, then hit the like button, the little thumb underneath the video, click share and share to your social media, or join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to take out a one-off payment membership, go to nufcmatters.com and hit membership. And for a £25 fee, you get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. You can also put a smartphone over the top of this QR code. It'll take you straight there. And don't forget, we also help the food bank on this channel. nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk is a website where you can make a virtual donation today.
And don't forget, pre-match tomorrow night at Gateshead Leisure Centre. You can meet Supermac and Gibbo. They'll be doing a pre-match talking. It's free entry. You just need to register via their website. And you can also see Supermac, Gibbo, and George and the Longsands on stage 20th of July at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets at tenner. All proceeds going to Dementia Matters. You can get your tickets now from nufcmatters.com or newcastlelegends.com. And we've got a special show tomorrow night as well. Ask George, Tuesday night, 5 o'clock, slightly earlier, just before the England game. Tomorrow night, Ask George. Get your questions in for George. It'll be a 1 hour show, 5 till 6 tomorrow. And don't forget, the Gibbo and Rob Lee event is now at Gateshead Leisure Centre. Tickets for that are £30, and you can get them from Gateshead Leisure's website, gatesheadleisurecentre.co.uk. Okay, second half of the show, Martin. We'll go to you first on Yankuba Minde. Lots of speculation over the course of the weekend that Newcastle are willing to sell the young player who has had a great loan spell, it has to be said. Come back with a trophy under his arm as well, a medal in his cabinet. And a lot of people, including myself, probably expecting to see Yankuba Minte get a chance, certainly in pre-season, to see what he's all about and see whether it might save us a little bit of money. And maybe he could be a natural replacement for, say, Almiron if he was to be sold. But speculation seems to be rife and almost confirmed by the club now that they're prepared to let him go. Lots of talk about FFP and PSR and, Newcastle having to bring in some money before the end of June, which would lead to this kind of deal being done. Talk of him being a lightweight in the DCL deal, and that obviously hasn't come to fruition, but lots of interest from abroad as well for the young player. So, I've seen the fallout on social media. Lots of people up in arms, going mad, we're a selling club, etc., etc. But in reality, we've not really seen anything from this player ourselves yet. Yeah, he's had a good loan season, but is he going to cut it in the Premier League? Is it worth getting upset about a player that hasn't actually played in black and white for Newcastle? It could be a great deal, and you know he might go on and not do a great deal. But yeah, it's a flip of a coin situation for me. What do you think, Martin?
I think I watched a few of the games he played last season, and like, look, he looks like a player, but it's very easy to look at a 2-minute clip on YouTube and say he's the real deal. So I guess from the club's perspective, I'm like yourself, Steve. I thought maybe they'd have a good look at him over the pre-season, and Eddie would kind of run the rule over him and see where did he fit. I suppose if you're looking for a right winger, he certainly looks like he has enough to be able to go at it. But Dutch League is a big difference to the Premier League. I think from a point of the PSR and the club point of view, listen, we kind of got him out of nowhere for whatever it was, 7 or 8 million, 9 million, whatever we paid for him. If Leon or somebody from Europe comes in with 35, 40 million, to be fair, and they sell him on, like that's pretty bloody good business in a year, with a 7 million purchase to a 40 million sell. So I can understand why the club might want to look at it. He's not kind of, I suppose, settled into the club. He's not somebody that's been in the dressing room. He's not somebody that's been at training every single day over the last season. So I suppose the detachment is a lot easier. And if that suffices, where we need to be with PSR come June the 30th, then listen, if the club think it's the right thing, then it's the right thing. I think as a fan base, it's the normal stuff. I think Spenny made a point. Until he's in a black and white shirt and they're playing on the pitch, I don't think he can make too much of it. He's had what appears to be a decent run over in Europe. But I think, look, if somebody was to come in with 35, 40 million, as Leon supposedly seem to be in the front running, then I could understand the club wanting to do it. Does it make sense? Is it another Bobby Clark kind of thing? Somebody that's got that talent there that we've had to let go. There's fans looking at it going, well, sure, I thought our days of being a selling club were gone, but the rules are there. PSR is what it is. If we've got to comply and we've got to do stuff, what are we going to do? Listen, would I like to see Almiron gone instead? Yeah, probably, because you're not going to get that. But obviously, it's getting rid of these players that we have got, the likes of Matt Targett and Almiron and Wilson. Some of these other players, there's no bite for them. There's no snap for them. So if we've no options out of it, then the club is going to have to do what it's going to do. And if that's a 40 million deal to get rid of him, and that suffices, and that puts an extra 40 or 50 or 60 million into the PSR pot for us to sign another player with Premier League experience or with caliber, then I say go ahead and do it, mate.
Okay, Spenny, what's your thoughts, mate, on Minty? I mean, we've not got an emotional attachment to the kid, but would you sell him? I've seen somebody in the chat saying, what does this look like to potential players that may want to come to the club, young players who think Newcastle's a good option, only to find that they're being loaned out when they get here and sold on.
It's good business by the club, simple as that. Chelsea, Arsenal, Man U, Liverpool, all do this.
Yeah.
Get the young ones in, they're like a cattle market. Sell them at a profit. That's how they get to spend all this money they've got, and we don't. This is how it's done, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Buy a player for 3-4 million, sell him for 40 million when he's on loan somewhere, making a name for himself. I'm more looking forward to seeing Albie Harrison go on next season, see if he can get on the bench than Minder, to be honest. This all goes towards a world-class right winger, which way he should be played, where we was thinking he was going to play. Who we'd rather have? A young lad's going to settle in 2 seasons to get in the team full time, or you're going to get a world-class right winger out of the money he's being sold, getting into that team. I know which one I'll be picking. This is how it's done.
This is how it's done, Barry. Is Spenny right?
Nah. Not for me. I think for me as a Newcastle fan, we should be past the days where we're selling our best up-and-coming young players. And I think Minty will only improve. I think there's other players, a bit like Martin said, there's other players at the club that I would get rid of before Minty. I know there's supposedly a lot of interest. I know you guys were talking about getting rid of Longstaff the other day. I would get shot at somebody like that before Minty. Minty's going to improve. He's only going to get better. We've got players who are standing still at the club.
Why, Barry? Because you've seen him on YouTube.
He's got huge potential.
He's on a Dutch league, and it's worse than ours. So he can't be a world-class pretty youngster, can he?
But why are these clubs looking to pay the amount of money they're
He's only
talking
played
about?
11 games this season. He didn't even get
Yeah,
in
but people don't offer. They don't offer 40, 30, 40 million for a player who hasn't got potential. That's why we can't sell some of the knackers that we've got, because people know they won't get any
See,
better.
again, you're reading in the reports, like I said earlier on, you don't even know how much he's going to be selling for. You're just reading
So
what's saying.
What do you believe?
But it's a similar situation. It's a similar situation, Barry, to Dortmund, and they've done it with Bellingham and they've done it with Haaland. They bought them when they were younger and obviously Bellingham's not that old, but they bought them at a cut price, coming through. Like look at Haaland, came through Norwegian leagues into BVB and sold off to City for 60 million. Now I'm sure it was a lot more than that, but we're only hearing 60 million. But like Dortmund do exactly the same thing. They get these players, they maybe do a season on loan, they maybe do a half a season in Dortmund, they're sold on for a massive profit.
But that's a huge
De Bruyne,
part of what
De
they are.
Bruyne
Because
exactly.
De Bruyne
they rely on that money, though, Martin.
Sorry to interrupt him, I'm just trying to say that point.
That's part of their finance. They have to do that. We shouldn't have to do that.
Progresses.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to sell our best young players
I agree.
with the money that we've got.
I get that, but like at the end of the day, the PSR, for us to grow financially on the field and commercially off it, we'll have to sometimes look at it as in a different perspective. Is the kid possibly going to be a world talent in 2-3 years? Yeah, maybe, but I'm not Mystic Meg, so I don't know. But what I do know is if I want a decent right winger for 60 million, I've got to sacrifice somewhere else, because that's the way they have the league tied up. So if we want to generate the commercials, of which we're now starting to get off the field with the club, with Seller, with Adidas, with all the other stuff that the guys are working on, we've got to do the same on the field. And unfortunately, that's going to mean sacrifice. And come the winter, that may mean somebody like an Isaac or a Bruno going, and we just have to live with that. I disagree.
I think with the financial experts this club's got, we shouldn't be having to sell these players. There's other ways of raising money. The fact that we're not doing the sponsorship deals that we're talking about doing because of the rubbish that's going on with Man City. So now we're having to resort to selling anybody and everybody we can get some cash for.
It's the financial experts is telling them to sell them.
We've got a decent right winger anyway. Harvey Barnes is a far better player than people. How much are you going to spend to get a better right winger than Harvey Barnes?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just saying.
Harvey Barnes is not a right winger, by the way.
He can play right side and left side. They both can. They can quite easily intermingle between the two sides. It's all about opinions, Svenny. I disagree. I would never have sold Bobby Clark. I would have broke the bank to keep that kid there. I was disgusted with the club when they did that. And this, to me, is just the same thing over again. There's other ways around it. Make an effort to get rid of some of the dead wood that we've got. Raise money that way. Don't sell off the people who are going to improve.
It's all right saying that, Barry, but you can't get rid of the players, the dead wood, because nobody wants them.
But that's what the club is doing, Spenny. The club's going to do that. What they say, the club's going to get rid of the dead wood.
Interesting. Very, very, very rare we'll have these kind of situations, but I'll let that play out, and that's interesting. That's two sides of the argument that we tend to see on social media, but done in a diplomatic and polite way. And that's, I respect both your opinions, lads. You can't say which one's valid because, the proof of the pudding is in what Minty does if he leaves. Ultimately, if he does go, and he is very successful, Newcastle will be looking at that going, well, we've made a mistake there, but who's to know?
I think the other thing with that, Steve, if they do sell him, and let's say they do sell Minter, if you're a smart commercial director or you're a smart sporting director of the club, which I have faith in those that are leading the club that they're not idiots by any length of form. We're kind of stuck to what the Premier League is doing, and there's a lot of clubs in it, barring the top 2 or 3. That are already at that commercial piece. The thing for me is, listen, if the kid gets sold, that's fine. But by Christ, you better have a bloody good buy clause back, a buyback clause or something in it that if he is a success, we get first dibs on bringing the guy back at a fairly decent rate. So if the club do that, then I would say fair enough. And I totally get what Barry's saying. But I think we're just in the midst of that situation at the minute where we don't want to be a selling club. Absolutely not. We shouldn't be. I'm sure we've got the richest owners in the world. But we're tied. Our hands are tied.
Yeah.
And that's what we've got to do.
This is what Man City do, of course. They have good buyback clauses. Kev, interesting debate, this one. What's your views on young Minty?
I would have a look at him I'll just talk from a coach's perspective. I would look at him in the summer and to see how he is in the summer. However, on the flip side of that, from a business perspective, footballers are commodities at the end of the day, regardless of level, regardless of how old you are. Like even Bruno could be sold, even Joe Lynn, anybody in the first team playing squad could be sold at the right price. And I've just looked up here real quick. He's 19. We bought him for what, 7-ish, somewhere around in there. And if we sell a lad for 19, a 19-year-old lad for 20 plus, just say 20 million plus, there's an instant profit. So therefore, and I agree with Martin in terms of that. But I wouldn't have a buyback clause. I would have a high percentage sell-on clause from the next club that he goes to. That's what I would do, and then you reap the benefit from that from another financial thing. So you can do it both ways. Either way, whatever, you're going to get money in regardless, somehow, some way, shape, or form. However, at the same time, you look at Miguel Almiron, and I've banged on this drum for months. Well, I've seen him play here in Atlanta for years, and he's not a right winger. I know for a fact he's not a right winger. He's a number 10. He plays in behind. He made one of the laziest footballers I've ever seen in Joseph Martinez, who scored all the goals. He made him look. He was the Peter Beardsley to Andy Cole, essentially. So he's a square peg in the round hole. Yes, he does a job. He works hard. He plays with a smile on his face. Is Jacob Minty going to do the same thing? Not too sure. Too raw for me, but at the same time, have a look at him in the summer. Have a look at him, see how he actually integrates within the squad. He's played within a good team within Arnie Slot at Feyenoord. You know, has he been coached well there? What traits has he picked up there? Is it going to benefit him coming into the same our style of what we want to play? Is it all going to work? Is it all going to fit? If not, and if somebody comes in with X millions of pounds or whatever it is, yeah, I've got no emotional attachment to the lad. I really haven't. Football's commodity. I'm a commodity as a coach. I could get fired tomorrow, and I'll have to find another. That's just how the business works. Anybody
take 40 million for you, Kev.
I'm worth more than that, man. Hey, pushing 40, and I'll be 100 million. No, especially on the right side. No, but at the same time, look, and we've got the right financial people making the right financial decisions. What's best for the club long term? Not yes, we want immediate impacts. We want immediate results and things like that. But we have to cut our cloths. It's still essentially accordingly, which is unfortunate. Yes, we've got the richest owners in the world, but we can't exercise that based on certain rules and which we all know about. But I would bring him in for the summer, give him an Eddie Howe pre-season, and then see where he sits at the end of that pre-season, and go from there. If it doesn't tick any boxes for Eddie Howe and the coaching staff, well, guess what, son? Sorry, thanks, but somebody's come in with a better offer. We need the money, and you have to go. That's just part of football and the football business. So there's two sides to it. It is what it is. It's football. We've got to get used to seeing these players come in. Got to get used to see these players that would potentially leave, and that's just part of it. And we've got to accept it, regardless whoever it is. It could be Bruno tomorrow, or whoever. It doesn't. Football world.
All right, George, we're coming to you next. What's your views on Yankuba Minty? Should we sell him?
Well, like some of the lads have said, it's a pity it looks like we're selling young talent. But on the other hand, having watched quite a bit of him in the Dutch league, he is talented, but he has one flaw for me that I've seen. He gets pushed off the ball too easy. When he comes against a defender that's prepared to press him hard and do a real old-fashioned shoulder charge, he's gone. He's had it. He's lightweight. But that's my jaundiced view of the world. The other thing I look at, lads, is who's doing all this talking? His bloody agent. His agent's doing all this talking. What kid in his right mind would make a statement that It's his dream to go to Everton because that's where he wants to be. For God's sake, you'd have to take him to the RVI and give him a lobotomy if he said that, not a football coaching thing. It just is a nonsense. And the person that's making most of this noise is his agent. Now, is his agent looking for more money for him or more money for himself? He's certainly not looking to do Newcastle any favours by the sound of it. So it is sad if it is what it is. My inclination would be to agree with Kevin, say, at least let's have a look at him over the summer with our coaches and with our staff and with our current players and see what happens. But if the rules are against it and all the rest of it, then we've got to break the bank, let's break it at that end and not at the top end. Because frankly, if we start selling the top end players like Bruno and Dick Isak, well, we're not just being a selling club, we're admitting we're not a big club. And why sell our best players to the teams that we're fighting against? We want the other way around. We want them to come to us. So if the choice is Minty or somebody higher up, then it's got to be Minty. But I do urge you to think, lads, it's his agent that's doing most of this talking by the sound of it. And I'm always suspicious when that's happening. My inclination, as I say, it would be let him have a summer with Eddie and the coaches and see what they think about him. But as I say, one flaw I've seen or felt I've seen, and the odd times I've seen him, is that he's so too easily pushed off the ball if he gets against a defender that knows how to make a proper shoulder charge, which is not very often these days. But never mind. So in a nutshell, be careful where this, as always, this is Newcastle United. Be careful where the stories are coming from and why they're coming. This PSR thing's going to explode. I'm convinced of it. I don't care whether Manchester City's won that case or not. It's going to explode. People are going to be up. Everybody. Look, when we started with this, all the clubs in the south and everywhere else were saying, "Oh, that's bloody Geordies. It's them that's causing all this bother." Well, go to Everton, go to Leicester, go to Nottingham Forest, go to Leeds, and ask their fans who's causing all the trouble now. It ain't like it was before, and it's going to get worse for those at the top. It'll come back to bite them, and I'm still of the view that Amanda and her husband solved the golf problem. I think Amanda and her husband will solve the Premier League problem as well.
Okay, 700 watching tonight. If you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, please jump onto YouTube and hit the subscribe button on NUFC Matters. We do 7 shows a week. Darren, your views on Yankuba Minte?
I agree with Barry, 100% agree with Barry. I disagree with Spenny. What's the point buying these young players if you want to go places? You've got to get a chance. We've got some deadwood there. I'd rather get rid of the deadwood we've got and said Minty. Do you know what I mean? Like I can't say why I say in the first place. And now we're going to make profit, but 19-year-old, he's got a good future ahead of him apparently. What I've heard and what I've read. I'd rather get rid of Longstaff. Elliot Anderson, I'd rather get rid of him. And I'd rather keep because he's. I don't think Elliot Anderson's at the next level for Newcastle. I've watched him with United. I don't rate him. So
bring Dummett back.
Bring Richie back as well.
He's on
no, on serious note, I'd rather sell Elliot Anderson and sell Minter. Me personally, I do agree with Barry and who he got last year for saying now about £10.5 million. In if what I've read, if we need to get the transfer, we need to sell it before the end of the month. So you can't, if the guys, people say give Eddie Howe a look at him, they can't afford to give him Eddie Howe a look at him if they're going to sell him on it. So I hope we keep him, give him a chance at Newcastle. I'd rather sell one on. I'd rather get Amron, Murphy, Elliot Anderson. I'd rather see them go first. Keep Minter.
Okay. Minty, our lead, what's your views? Would you like to see him stay at Newcastle?
I believe I believe Eddie Howe already judged the player, already have a decision, regardless any financial matters. I believe Eddie Howe, one of the coach that he give like uh, quick decisions, hardly to change his mind. We can see this in many occasion during the past season. We see, like for example, regardless of the differences, we see like Barnes play in the United States tournament. The same night he arrived by private plane, and we see like Hal Lewis. He's still not convinced to be left back. So I think Eddie Howe make already a decision, and I don't think maybe he doesn't fit the future plans for the lineup for Newcastle. Maybe if we are, of course, more ready team, there will be no rush in make a decision and sell. But I believe that's the thing. I believe Eddie Howe already make his judgment on the player.
Okay, Alan, what's your thoughts on Minty?
Well, I for once, I totally agree with Spenny and Martin, to be honest with you, because that's where football's heading. Minty is just going on potential. And don't forget, lads, he's with him being African. If he is a brilliant player, lads, he'd be missing for a month every 2 years in the Ofcom. So Arsenal had that same problem with the African players a few years back, where they had 3 or 4 and they were missing for a month of the season every 2 years. So if he comes out to be brilliant, then we've got that problem every 2 years. Anthony, 85 million, went to Man United, tore up the Dutch league, but he's absolutely a non-starter in this league as far as I'm concerned, nowhere near worth 85 million. In an ideal world, I would agree with Barry and Darren, but like Martin says, the rules are tied with a straitjacket, and financially, we're going to have to sell this player to conform with PSR rules, whether he's going to be brilliant in the future or not. Yes, I think we will get rid of Longstaff and Amron in the future going forward, but at the present time, he's our most sellable asset, and teams want him. And if they're prepared to pay 35, 40 million for him, then so be it. For a player that we've never seen, I can see both sides of the argument here, and it's very difficult to go on one side, but my head says, like Spenny, this is where football is. With Arsenal, Chelsea especially, 2 or 3 years ago, they had about 70 players on loan, lads. They were getting millions through the door through just selling on players that we haven't even heard of. Yes, they dropped some clangers with Kevin De Bruyne and Salah, but in the main, this is where you make your money to get your revenue from, by loaning out players and selling them on for big bucks when a lot of them will not make it. And then Man City made a boo-boo with Cole Palmer. Look at how that's turned out. And they sold him for 40 million. That might happen with us with Minty, but who's to say? And I agree with Al Walid. I think Eddie Howe's made a judgment already, and I think he will be sold. But in all essence, I totally agree with what Spenny said and Martin. This is what it is, lads. Yes, we would like to keep we're already bringing in loads of young lads, Darren. You know, Alfie Harrison, we've just got another lad.
Will you be able to sell him then?
And we're going to get a lot of young lads, and whether they make a grade or not is up to them to prove their worth going forward. Where academy will get better over time, when it's never been really good ever in my lifetime. The club are starting to think ahead already with the amount of young lads that are already signing for the club. So if this is the case of keeping Bruno and Isaac, I'm afraid, Darren, I'm all for it.
Okay. Pablo?
Tough one, isn't it? Bigger tough one. As a football fan, you want to see the lad come back and light the league up. The financial side of it, the lads are right, but you look at models like RB, Salzburg and Leipzig, that's the way to do it. You know, they start at Salzburg, move on to Leipzig, get sold for big money, that kind of scenario. So I could understand that if that was going on. However, there's a reason why, in my eyes, Premier League teams send players to Germany and Holland, and it's to get a good look at them on the physicality side of things, because they are robust leagues. You know, they don't send them off to Italy or whatever. So for me, I think there will be the scouting team out there constantly, because he has been muted for coming back to our first team for a while. So you would imagine Eddie, even himself, or has lads out there watching him every week to say, is this guy going to make the grade? And he's probably placed a lot of trust in them. Now, they may have come back to him and said, he's good, but not that good. If you can get money for him, flog him. However, he may come back in. Like I said, all this is rumour talk. He may be coming back in and he might light the place up, and we don't have to go and spend 30, 40, 50 million on the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin when we've already got it there. We don't know. Personally, I'd like to see him stay and give him a chance. But the money side of it, you can understand if they do it, if that's the model we're going down now. And if that's in the background and we're doing that, then there's not really a lot we can do about it. There'll be 3 or 4 more, won't there?
Okay. Interesting stuff. Lots of opinions on this coming in the chat as well. Putting them all on the screen. Magnus, your views on Minty?
Yeah, this lad is the only one that got a trophy this year, and I am totally against selling young hot prospect, especially exotic ones from a different continent. However, there's if we're talking about the 30, 40 millions, then this is a great business for us for somebody that hasn't even stepped foot onto our soil. I'm still a little bit baffled by this, because I really thought he was going to be there for the preseason. I hope nothing's going to happen until then, unless we are trying to finance a bigger buying. There is the Icelandic lads. You can get a couple of them for the price of 30 to 40 million. One of them coming from my local club that is right on my doorstep. I'm really excited about that. But I'm also wondering about the question: do we want the instant success, or are we looking for the long run? Because instant success, we would be buying a 25-year-old rather than maybe sticking around with a 19-year-old that has great potential. I would be very upset if he leaves, but I do understand we are dealing with rough rules and regulations, and it might be an offer that is too hard to deny. I don't want him to leave, but I understand and respect the reasoning for even considering it.
Okay. Last man to speak on this is Ian tonight. What's your views, Ian, on Minty? Would you like to see him stay at Newcastle and see whether he can cut it in the Premier League, or do you think selling him and at least sorting that 30th of June PSR deadline out is more important?
Well, I was just going to say, we'll know by this time next week when we're all back on here. We'll know one way or another what's happened. If it's true that we need 25 million or 20 million to balance the books, and he's the only option to sell, then why not sell him at a lower price and negotiate a fairly low buyback price? And then if he's any good, we can also negotiate a sell on as well if we don't want him. So there's loads of things we can do. If we need that money, or we're going to get a points deduction, or we got to sell. If you're talking about losing Minter or Bruno or Isak, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? But I sort of agree with everybody. Everyone's got a valid point, but I think it all just comes down to what's the truth, and none of us actually know. If we need that money and he's the only option to get that money, then what option have we got? We have to get the money in.
Ian, have you been a politician? You're agreeing with everybody.
I've got a cold, mate. I can't be bothered arguing.
You cannot be drinking, can you? You're not drinking. He's not drinking, so he's having an off day of the day. And he hasn't sweared either. Usually he's swearing by now, so he's doing really good. Very proud of you.
Thank you very much, you knob.
He hasn't jumped into anybody else's conversations either, has he?
I know.
Sorry.
Are you not well? Are you not well?
I'm not well, no, I'm full of cold.
I can tell. You tell you're not well, son.
Great show tonight, guys. Thanks
Cheers,
to
lads.
Ian, thanks to Magnus, to Spenny, to Barry, to Kevin, to Martin, to Darren, to Alan, to Pablo, to Albaleed, and to George. Thanks to you for watching. Thanks to the moderators. I'm back tomorrow night, 5 o'clock with Ask George. Look forward to seeing you then. Take care.
Ciao, boys.
Cheers,
3-1
lads.
England,
Cheers,
lads.
lads.
3-1 England.